that we already done, so no choice to then bring together. We continue today with the next sessions. Well, still the program needs to be completed, but it's more or less we already passed the half of the. No, actually, it's in the really it's a half because 6 lectures gone, 6 more. So let's continue. So how we can apply all these scientific topics? We can apply them in the different way. We can apply them as a life culture. Remember the probiotics are life culture that have benefits for the host. And in this case, we can apply them as biopreservative culture, as a starter culture, even as adjunct culture. Because, again, remember I was mentioning this before, it's very difficult to have the same microbial species, same strain, that can do the fermentation process and then can actually bring the beneficial properties. Very often the strain that producing beneficial metabolites is not a good strain for the fermentation process. So you need actually to explore these options, see if your strain, already you know your strain has the beneficial properties, but you need to be sure if your strain maybe has some technological properties. So who has made the daki at home? Someone studied this process in the laboratory level. Well, starter cultures that are used for production of these fermented dairy products, they're supposed to have a reasonably quick acidification. They need to acidify very quick because the pH needs to go below certain level in order to do the precipitation of the proteins and to have this process. This like a specific appearance on these fermented dairy products. However, very often when we have the bacteriocin producer, they're not such a quick acidify. They don't acidify such a quick way. So now the question is: are they? It's a good or bad? What do you think? Starter culture need to acidify very quick, but bacteriocin producer is not not do the acidification very quick. This is good or bad? What do you think? Come on, give me your opinion. Okay, who think it's good? Raise the hand. Who think it's a bad? Raise the hand. Okay, no opinion. Okay, let's think logically. If you have a bacteriocin producer that acidifies very quickly, what will happen? It will acidify the environment and will do the precipitation. And then the starter culture is coming and what to do. I mean, they don't have option to produce the aromatic compounds. They not option to produce the isopolysaccharides. So all the system is getting more complicated. So in fact, the starter culture needs to be quick acidifier because they need to make a product first. And then bacteriocin producer, it's slowly acidification culture. They will not interfere with the technological property, but they will grow and they will produce antimicrobial peptides. So you see, you need to find a good balance between the starter culture and the gen culture to don't mess each with the other, and they can work together. So it's a kind of trick. You think it's easy just to put the culture in the product and it will work. No, you need to be aware that bacteriocin producer or probiotic culture is not supposed to interfere with the starter culture, including when we do the spectrum of activity to know what we can kill with our bacteriocin. We want to kill pathogens, we want to kill sponge organisms, but obviously we don't want to interfere with the starter culture. So it's important things. In the lab, we have experience. We had a strain that is extremely strong antimicrobial activity, but he was killing even starter cultures, killing even probiotic cultures. So obviously, don't have this kind of application for this. But for the medical application, was a good candidate because it was killing very well several pathogens. So depends on the results. Sometimes you start a project with the idea to develop something for the food industry, and then you realize having much more better and greater potential to be applied in the medical pharmaceutical area. Another way to apply the bacteriocin is not as a live cultures, but they can be applied as a semi-purified or purified preparations. Very often this application is for the medical application because in medical application it's much more easy, much more controlled if you have the semi-purified preparations because In this way, you know how much you deliver, you know how much will be there and how they work. If you apply the probiotic, and this coming point that we're going to discuss a little bit later, a difference between probiotic and postbiotics, because in probiotics you have the bacterial culture. This bacterial culture needs to go in your gastrointestinal part and needs to produce the bioactive metabolites. But if you use already produced metabolites, you can deliver them in the place where you want to be delivered. Um, this is actually general idea how the bacteriogenic cultures can be applied. From one side, we can apply them in the food products because sorry, the screen is a little bit going up, but you can see that this is the DGG gels. In DGG, you can demonstrate the gradient gel electrophoresis. You can actually compare different products, and you can see how the different microbial culture present in these products. It's important when you use the bacteriocin producer, this is the second part, you have much more unification in the microbial population of the products. You don't have such a big variations. Important in the food industry to deliver the same quality of the food product. And using the natural fermentation process, you're going to have a huge variation in your microbial population. And sometimes even can appear some spoilage microorganisms when you do the natural fermentation. But when you use the directed fermentation, when you use the starter culture, and if this starter culture is a bacteriocin producer, you can have it much more unification, much more stability on your food products. And this is a good advantage to use the bacteriocin producer. In the food safety, we discussed it in several occasions, possibility to use the bacteriocins as a control of some foodborne pathogens, and even human pathogens and animal pathogens, not just foodborne. Same time in veterinary medicine, we apply different medicines for control of important diseases in animals. One of the biggest problems in the dairy industry, in the dairy farming, in fact, it's mastitis. So what's the rules? The farmers or dairy industry, they need to check every time if the animals are healthy, because mastitis is associated with several pathogens, including Staphylococcus aureus, Staphylococcus epidermidis, and other. They can be transmitted from the animal to the humans. The problem is when the mastitis it's subclinical. If the animal is sick, you can see it. You start milking the animals, you can see the milk is precipitated, could be blood. So visually you see when the animal is really sick. The problem is subclinical mastitis because the animal don't show any symptoms. There is no inflammation, there is no blood in the milk, there is no precipitation of the milk, everything looks normal, but the disease is already there. There are some tests that can be performed, and they do the farmers, especially in the industrial production of milk. But again, very often, farmers don't do the tests, small farms. Sometimes they can even ignore this because they want to sell the milk. They want a profit. They don't want to isolate the animal. And then it's a coming the problem. So we need, especially in the dry period, we need to treat. Normally treatment is with antibiotics. But again, you treat with antibiotics. These antibiotics can go together with the milk to the milk production, then going to the dairy products, then coming to us, and we don't want this. So several now bactericides was proposed to be used for control of the mastitis in the dairy industry. Problem is again this subclinical when you don't have a visual, but even bactericide can be used as a prevention, as a prophylaxis. And sometimes the farmers they're using antibiotics for prophylaxis, but it's not correct because this will increase antibiotic resistance. Already was suggested that antibiotics cannot be used in the prophylaxis in the animals in the farming practice. Then another very important part is human medicine. I was showing you some examples already yesterday. that they do the modification of some of the bacteriocins. Now is coming the bioengineering of the bacteriocins, because okay, we know this structure nice and have the effect, but if you start moving some amino acids, specific amino acids, you can actually improve the activity, you can improve the action of these bacteriocins. Well, this can be done by the synthetic biology, but could be done by the modification of the gene, because remember, bacteriocins, they are organized quite simply. They ribosomally produce proteins, and if you can make some genetic modification on the operon structure of gene, you can actually modify production of the bacteriocin. Interestingly, everyone will say, okay, but let's make these proteins by the chemical synthesis. I mean, it's still not too big, 20, 30 amino acids. Synthesizing small proteins, not a big problem. It's something that works quite easy. Very interestingly, you do exactly the same structure, protein by the synthetic chemistry. They don't have activity. The problem very often this sulfate bridges this specific modification in the structure. You cannot do it by the normal chemical process. It needs to be done by the microorganisms. But then it's going even better, because you can take the gene, entire operon, you can clone to Escherichia coli, you can clone to the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and you can overexpress, and you can do the expression in the heterogeneous host. And this is a process that has already been done for several microorganisms and several bacteriocins. It's not rocket science, how you can say. It's something that can be done reasonably easy. It's not meaning in 2 days you make a cloning and overexpression and everything, but it's not something that is so complicated. It's a normal procedure that already is a routine in several places. Talking about application, there is several patents of application of the bacteriocins. One of these patents, it's a strain of Enterococcus multi. The strain being isolated from soybeans. And you see that this story that I was telling, we isolated this strain with the idea to use in the food preservation. Because a big company in South Africa wanted to preserve soy milk. And they was always having contamination. They wanted something that can preserve soy milk. We isolated the strain that was having good biopreservation properties, but was much more interesting. This strain, in fact, was active very strongly against middle ear infection. So become a very good bacteriocin with the medical application. Now I'm looking if it's name of the company somewhere mentioned here on the patent, or you can see it somewhere. Actually, it's an Indian company that is the co-owner of this patent. Can you see it, Cyplamet Pro somewhere? Okay, maybe it's over top, but anyway, they have the branches all around the world. It is one of the companies leader in the pharmaceutical industry. Well, so this is the story of this Enterococcus multi, isolated from soybean, with the idea to be applied in the biopreservation, but then become a very interesting tool for the control of the middle ear infections. In another work, we was having strain isolated from yogurt. This yogurt being produced by in South Africa, but by the Bulgarian company working there. And interestingly, we isolated this Streptococcus dolichicus from species Macedonius. And the idea was to apply this strain in the control of the mastitis in dairy animals. When we was exploring the potential of this bacteriocin, we wanted to know, first of all, we're supposed to kill the pathogens associated with mastitis, right? If you don't have this effect, you don't have to go. So we was pathogens isolated from animals with mastitis, and we was showing, remember this simple experiment, when you grow the pathogen, you have the bacteriocin, you see it's not giving chance the pathogens to grow in the presence of the bacteriocin. Then you use the atomic force microscopy to see how the bacteria losing their intracellular material when they've been treated with macedonocin, bacteriocin produced by this strain. And then we was making kind of cream because we wanted to see if we can have a slower release. And if, because I mean, how we can apply the bacteriocin inside the animal, you need to make it kind of clean. There's the only way to do it. So we was using a very simple method, using twin and some other bacterium can be released and can have the effect because obviously you cannot go and treat 6 hours. We did. Okay, if you have one animal, it's fine. You can do it. But in the farm, industrial farms that you have like, let's say 5,000 animals, so or even more. How are you going to do this? You need several veterinarians to go all the time. By the way, what's the average farm in India? How many animals? How many buffaloes is the average farm here in India? More or less.
200.
Okay, because when I went to Brazil in the beginning, my father, after his retirement, he has a small farm. Okay, the goats. Like that's what they make. Because sometimes it's difficult to read the names of the animals. Okay, and then he was having in this farm, it's just for, he was doing it for pleasure after finishing retirement, having 8 animals. The colleagues, he was making cheese at home, and my colleagues really asked me every time going to Brazil to bring some cheese. And they asked, how many animals you have in your farm? I said, 8. Wow. I said, no, it's nothing. It's, I mean, very small. It's almost nothing. 8,000? No, 8 numbers. 8,000? No, 8. 8. Even I can cite all the names of all of them because everyone had the name. And there was like a surprise because in Brazil the farms was extremely big. I mean, the south of Brazil, you have normally farms that have like 30, 40, 50,000 animals. Well, it's a big country. It's open space. They just select the space, put the animals, and just go to collect the profit. Okay, it's a different strategy. You see the scale. I mean, Bulgaria is only 7 million persons. India is how much? 1.5 billion, right? Yeah, so Bulgaria is fit in one district in Delhi only. It's already, you have maybe how? Delhi is 30 something, right? So we'll be like for Bulgaria only in Delhi. Okay, so this is the interesting point because you need the way, you need a slow release because in the big farms you don't have option to go and treat every animal every day. This it's just well, this may maybe mean a lot of jobs for veterinarians, but again, it's not real. We need to have the slow release. And then remember these slides. We was as well wanted, I showed it yesterday, but this is important because you can actually combine bacteriocin with antibiotics. So if you do the same treatment in the animals, or even for humans, you can always think about combined products. And it's interesting when you make a strategy to have the combined products, you can need to look, okay, I want something that will target the same receptor, same mode of action. It's one of the strategy because you make them stronger. So 2 of warrior against the same enemy, in the same way they will work better, right? I mean, reunion make us stronger. Another option, you can select the approach when you are targeting 2 different mode of actions. In this way, one making weaker, and second one come and kill the pathogen. Well, I told you when I was looking on the internet how to kill this terrier, you're not supposed to kill answer in the artificial intelligence. But in the microbiology, we say we need to kill the pathogens because they're our enemy. So combination is one of the strategies that we can use. But then you can combine not only with the antibiotics, you can combine with the phenolic compounds. If you think about all the fruit and vegetables, they're extremely rich of phenolic compounds. This could be different phenolic acids, polyphenols. They have more or less variety of structures and chemical structures. Several of them are very well known antimicrobial properties. Several of them, these studies, some of them even have the antiviral, antifungal. I mean, all the traditional medicine is rely on several of these phenolic compounds produced by different plants. But again, we can extract these phenolic compounds, we can combine them with the bacteriocins, and we can even have better activity, again, synergistic activity between different phenolic compounds and the bacteriocins. So bacteriocins can be combined with antibiotics, they can be combined with the different phenolic compounds, they can be combined even with different lactoferrin from milk. They have antimicrobial activity. But if you combine them with antibiotics, they can work together and can work even better. But then it's coming a very interesting point. All this kind of treatment, are they really safe? Well, the moment we believe that they cannot really interfere. But it's coming to start several, not really several, but some reports that showing the long-term application of non-antibiotics as well can generate problems with antibiotic resistance. Let's think about very simple chemical disinfectants. You use in the home bleach, you use some acids. This is completely normal. They've been used in the last century very actively as a normal process. There was some work performed in Spain by the group of Professor Antonio Galvez. That was showing that long-term sublethal doses of these chemical antiseptics and cleaning products, in fact, they can increase antibiotic resistance in the pathogens. Because in the sublethal doses, very often you don't kill, but this is giving a signal to these microorganisms to protect, it's around, something that wants to borrow. So we made it was removing a culture for 1 month, every single day. Even Saturday, needed to go to work, no choice. And the problem is the students, they don't want to go on Sunday, so I needed to go to do the job for them. But then I asked them, do it. I can do it on Sunday, you do on Saturday. So we made it a deal. And then we was having 5 Listeria, 5 Escherichia coli, and 5 Salmonella. Every single day, they received a small dose of bactericin and small dose of antibiotics and small dose of benzoic acid. But the quantity that cannot kill them, below the minimum inhibition concentration. Then, in the day 0, day 15, and day 30, we was doing a minimum inhibition concentration for the sensitivity of pathogens to specific antibiotics. And for some of them, we saw that the minimum inhibition concentration for the antibiotic sensitivity move almost double. Some of them go down. Some of them don't move, but some of them move up. So again, it's so interesting. If someone wants to do this work, just do it. I mean, I give you more or less the idea what's the way of the planning the experiment, but you can make it even better and go even further, because it's actually showing that the small doses of the antimicrobials, in fact, can be very bad because they can increase sensitivity to antibiotics. So you need more antibiotic later to kill it. And we get even further. We don't just start with using bactericins antibiotics as a very small amount below the minimum incubation concentration, but we as well wanted to use some phenolic extract as well. Interestingly, it was showing that when you treat the bacteria, pathogens, we was having again 5 Listeria, 5 Salmonella, 5 Escherichia coli. We was treating with extract of mint extract. We was treating with clove extract. That was we was treating that with caffeic acid as well. Caffeic acid is one of the principal antimicrobials that you have in propolis. And very small amount that cannot kill the pathogens, treating them for 1 month, and we observe the same thing. So some of the phenolic compounds, when it's applied in the very low concentration, may have actually even negative effects. So they need to be applied in the appropriate concentration. But good news, most of the fruit and vegetables, they contain high level of the phenolic, so they can have their good benefits for our health. This is in Portuguese. Someone can understand? I'm joking. Don't worry. It's important actually that bactericin can be applied as a starter culture in the preservation of the food. We can have them as semi-purified materials. or we can have them as a pure material. Interestingly, at the moment, only two of commercial bacteriocins are available on the market. It's niacin and pediosin PA1. However, on the global level. But in some countries, they are appearing more and more bacteriocins that apply as well for different applications. Very often, these days, it's not anymore in the food application, but there's much more applications in the medical sector because it's giving more possibilities. So, niacin is a commercial name of niacin, and out 2431 is commercial pediosin PA1. And they can be actually purchased as a pure material. Well, the problem is quite expensive, and when you need to do several work in the lab, buying them from the Sigma, it's a high price. But well, sometimes we needed them as controls. Again, niacin can be applied as can be bought as industrial preparation. In this case, it's semi-purified and it's containing milk. So if you're applying the niacin in your experiment, just need to take care that what you buy from the company will contain milk powder as well. So take care that you have extra milk powder, and this, in some situation, could be a problem in the interpretation of your results. Normally, application of the niacin, it's allowed about 24.5 milligram per kilo. It's a limit. Very often it's applied in different types of cheeses, melted cheeses, preparation based on cheeses, pasteurized cheeses, all these things in Brazil. In the wood, it's very often applied for control of Staphylococcus aureus. It's applied in the control of the Clostridium. Something interesting that I saw once in the South African supermarket, because when you have Clostridium growing, I mean, they can produce gas and the package is going like a balloon. Well, I like the microorganism pathogens then showing that they are there. They don't hide it. If you open the packaging of some food and smell bad, I mean, could be salmonella, could be Clostridium, because you have the smell. The problems, microorganism pathogens, they don't show nothing. They don't change color of the product, they don't produce gas, they don't produce nothing. And this is more dangerous because are you going to eat the egg that smells bad? No. You break the egg, you smell, you see that it's salmonella there, and you throw it away. But if you break the egg and there is no smell, nothing, and you eat and then it's contaminated, this is the worst scenario. So normally what's happening in South Africa, they get contamination on their cheese and the cheese blow. One of the people from the supermarket with one needle going like, making holes to liberate the gas. Well, it's completely wrong because you remove the evidence, but the contamination is there. Okay, but it's happened. I mean, sometimes people in the shops, they are different. They don't want to lose the products. But again, this is the food safety. If something is wrong, you need to remove it. You're not supposed to sell the things that you get. And another thing, if I have the problem in one shop, I will go back to this shop. No. So don't lose your customers. The important thing on the safety of the bacteriocins is to be mentioned. The fact that the bacteriocins are proteins, they can be easily degraded by proteolytic enzymes. So you don't have this problem as antibiotics. Antibiotics can be very stable in the nature, and they can be stable even in the host, and they can be transmitted, and they can maybe stay for, not forever, but for a long time of period. There was some work showing that using the antibiotics in aquaculture, this was happening in Russia, the antibiotics went to the rivers and then went to the drinking water. So they was detecting these antibiotics far away from the way they've been applied. Well, we don't allow anymore use of antibiotics in the with agriculture because of this problem. But again, sometimes happen. Then bacteriocin can be degraded very easily by proteolytic enzymes, so they are less. Their stability is much more short in the environment. They cannot survive for a long time out of their purpose. And again, you can control easily. Normally, lactic acid bacteria producer, normally are not pathogens, but remember, some group of lactic acid bacteria are clear, distinct, shown as a pathogen. So obviously, you need to make important safety screening of these strains to be sure that strain that you are applying as a probiotic or starter culture with bacteriogenic properties not dangerous, and especially attention of streptococcus and enterococcus because they can be worse scenario that can happen. Some examples of application of bacteriocides. Um, this is the work that done in South Africa. Lactobacillus plantarum isolated from sorghum beer. Sorghum beer is a typically fermented beverage, low alcoholic beverage consumed in widely in South Africa. Interestingly, this strain was showing that it's safe, bacteriocin but isolated and very well characterized by carofanarinum. They was showing that the strain had a very good and strong probiotic properties with the animal model, with the human studies. Moreover, plantaricin produced by this strain was able to reduce the biofilm in the wine tank production because South Africa is one of the biggest producers of wine and they don't want formation of biofilm in the tanks because this means, well, in the wine production, you don't want the production presence of leuconostoc because leuconostoc producing hexapolysaccharides, and if you have contamination with leuconostoc, you can have your wine slimy. Wine not supposed to be slimy, it's supposed to be to look like a wine. So they was using this plantaricin to control these biofilms. As well, to order to produce it the biggest quantity, they flown to Saccharomyces cerevisiae and was able to express, so was even suggesting some industrial way of producing the bacteria. Well, everything, this is more or less the story of plantaricin, but then we wanted to use it, this strain for production of salami. So, sorry, maybe you're not going to like too much this because they was using several types of meat, and including some very nice animals like antelope. They're quite cute, these animals, but in South Africa they're using them for some meat. So there was salami was made with different type of meat, and they was using the strain of Lactobacillus plantarum that produce bacteriocin. They used the strain that is eliminating the gene because gene was related with the plasmid. So they cured the plasmid and they had the mutant that was negative, was not producing. And they was using Lactobacillus corvatus that was strain that was used as a starter culture. Idea is to see if you're going to use the strain producer of bacteriocin, a strain that is not producing bacteriocin, are going to be a difference in the process? So technically they was observing the growth of the bacteria, nothing unusual. All these things was typical. You have some decrease in the beginning and then after an increase of the population, then stability over the long period of time, like almost 80 days was following. So technically the strain can be used as a starter culture, but more interesting was fact that when the strain was producing bacteriocin and the salami was inoculated artificially with Listeria monocytogenes, we cannot detect Listeria monocytogenes in the product. When it was using the negative mutant, we was detecting Listeria. When it was using Lactobacillus corvatus as a strain, we was detecting Listeria as well. So showing that bacterial strain, Lactobacillus plantarum, bacteriocin producing strain, Lactobacillus plantarum, was able to grow inside the meat product and was able to produce the bacteriocin and to kill test microorganism Listeria monocytogenes. As well, they was making the salami without Listeria, separate batch, and they do the sensor evaluation that was not showing not significant differences between starter culture, bacteriocin negative mutant, or bacteriocin producer. So, because you can, again, you can make a perfect strain that will produce and will reduce any pathogens. But if this strain changing the organoleptic properties, customers will buy the product No, you want to have the product that you like. If the product is not with the same characteristics, no one will go buy it. Then using production of kefir. You know the kefir, right? Okay. We were isolating, actually Gillian, one of the students, was isolating this strain Lactobacillus plantarum, ST8 kefir. So yes, remember the Santosh was telling you can put your initials in the strain. So ST actually standing for my initials. 8 was isolate number 8 because we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to, I'm not, I think something 40 something in this case. And chi F is stands for kefir. So normally in our collection, when I see the strain, because of these last two symbols, I can tell you from where it's coming from. Because it's topic, I mean, I'm going to remember all the strains that you have in the lab, so you need to have some easy way to remember. Okay, with Gillian we isolated this strain from kefir, and then we wanted to reincorporate in the kefir grains. So we was taking a kefir grain that we not detect any antimicrobial activity, and then we reincorporate the strain inside the kefir, and we made it a test. We made it a kefir contaminated with enterococcus. So you see the normal presence of enterococcus, not contaminated enterococcus. This one that was with mutant that not producing bacteriocin, and the strain that producing bacteriocin, because we cured the plasmid as well in this strain. So obviously you have some enterococcus, but much more decline the number of the enterococci when bacteriocin strain is produced. And the enterococci could be a problem and could be a serious problem. In this case, we use the non-pathogenic enterococcus that is showing that is safe because we wanted as well people to try the product. Obviously, you're not going to give the sensor panel something that is dangerous. You want these people to be happy and to evaluate. Safety is important. Very often, when you produce something for a sensory evaluation, it's even made it in a separate laboratory because to be sure that no risk for contamination. There was appearance of the sensor panel was saying that they cannot detect any difference of presence of our user or not. In another experiment done by Eva Bala, it's a colleague from Hungary, that was Hungary, that was isolating two-component bacteriocin. In this case, the bacteriocin produced by Enterococcus faecium, isolated from fecal samples from piglets, was having these two enterocins, A and B. So, two of them, they need to be present as a complex in order to have the activity. I know these bacteria are very difficult to work because you need to be sure that two of them are together. If one is missing, no activity. But then she was using, showing that they have a good activity against several pathogens, Proteus vulgaris, Staphylococcus epidermidis, Listeria innocua. And now Listeria innocua is a strain that is not pathogen. But it's a very good model for Listeria monocytogenes.